Hi everyone, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel. I'm Amma Mama. I hope you are all having a good week so far and that your weekend's gone well. I just wanted to give a quick update on what I've read this week. I had time that I finished reading 3 books. One of them I'll talk about first. I was including my Agatha Christie short stories that I had been reading. And then I did also finish listening to the next book that I was on in the Outlander series, which was Voyager. And again, that's not part of like my regular, reading stuff. I just listen to that on Audible when I have time. So I did finish that one and I started the next one. I don't remember what it's called, but I think it's something August. I don't know, but the 4th one in that series. So I've started listening to that as well. But I did, like I said, I did finish reading Miss Marple, the complete short stories by Agatha Christie. I had never read any of these before. I think this was a book that had been my mom's when I was young because she used to really like Agatha Christie, and I had never read any of this stuff, and I had the book, so I included it. I really liked these stories. They were definitely short, nice, fun little reads. I loved the character of Miss Marple. She was just the way I pictured her, this little old lady, just very unassuming, and people didn't really think a whole lot about her and her life because she was always like, oh, I've never left the village, but I can learn things from people just from the village and human nature and all of that. And in this book, they were several instances, like they would be sharing stories of like crimes and things that had happened, and like the person who was telling the story knew the outcome but nobody else did, and so they were trying to see if the other people would be able to figure out what had happened, because a lot of these stories were from the Tuesday Club murders, and then there was also some from the Regatta Mystery, Three Blind Mice, and Double Sin. So I'm assuming those are like different collections that these stories were pulled from. But it was just fun because they would share these stories, and then at the end she'd be like, oh, it reminds me of like the maid who lived down the road, or it reminds me of the grocer. Like she would just have these like random connections, but then as she would tell what had happened, she was spot on, and people would be like, how did you know that? And she's like, oh, it's it's just what it is. And anyway, so they were just fun to read, and they were definitely short, but because of the way they were written, I didn't miss that longer drawn out drama of the mystery or whatever that I've gotten in a couple of the books that I've read this month. And so they were just fun. I really liked them. I liked Miss Marple's character a lot, of just this elderly, I think she's like a spinster or whatever, but this elderly spinster solving these mysteries that people wouldn't have expected her to be able to do. So it was a lot of fun to read. So I did enjoy this a lot. So I finished that. I'd say like four stars for that. It was just a good, fun little read. I was thinking that with how short the stories were and the way that they were told and everything, I at first had thought maybe I wouldn't like them because you aren't getting like involved in the mystery per se. But even with those, sometimes I'd be like trying to figure out the outcome, and then Miss Marple would be like telling what happened and how it happened and everything. I'm like, oh, I completely missed that. And so I liked how Agatha Christie wrote it in that way where maybe if I was like really trying, maybe I'd see some of the details, and a couple of times I was like, oh, maybe it's this or maybe it's that, but there was usually something that I was missing, and so it just made it more fun when you would get to the end and read how she came to the conclusion and what the conclusion was. So I enjoyed that. Then I finished listening to Alex Cross, Hope to Die. And this, I ended up giving a 5-star. I really enjoyed this book. And so I've mentioned a couple of times, this was kind of like the part 2 to another Alex Cross book, which was Cross My Heart. And in this book, he is trying to save his family who has been abducted, as well as solving some murders and some things like that, but it's really focused on his family. And this book had so many, twists and turns and things like that. And so it was a lot of fun to read. I enjoyed it a lot. I should say I listened to it. So I really enjoyed the Audible version of this that I had checked out from Libby. And the only thing that I will say is that, well, no, it wasn't even a bad thing. It was just that there was something that surprised me about what happened with, gosh, I don't know if this is a spoiler, because there's two people involved in the crimes. I think that's okay to say, because it's if you read even the first one, you'll know that. But there's two people involved in the crimes, and something that happens with one of them kind of surprised me, because I thought one thing was going to happen, and then it went a different direction. And it wasn't that it was like off kilter for the person's character or anything like that, but I was surprised because, without giving a spoiler, I'll say that there was one choice that would have given maybe like a little bit of moral redemption to this person, and then another choice that didn't give moral redemption to the person. And based on the way the story was going, I definitely thought that one of those was exactly what was going to happen, and it was the opposite. So I know that's like as vague as like mud, or looking, I don't know, looking through a murky window, but I don't want to give anything away, because it's one that I definitely would recommend for people to read the two of them together, because they were fun, or get it on Libby and listen to the audio version of it, because again, I really like the person who narrates it. But that's really all I feel like I can say without spoiling some of the stuff that was really good about the book. But it was really good, and I enjoyed this a lot. So I finished that. Then the third book that I read this week, I finished Killer Instinct by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. So this is the second book in the Natural series. And I didn't know a whole lot about these books going into them. And so for some reason, based on a couple of the videos that I had seen from people, I thought that like each book was solely revolving around one of the main characters, because there's five teenagers who are part of this Naturals team, and it is kind of like that, but it's not that each book is solely based on only that character. So like the first book was heavily on like Cassie's backstory and her life and how she got there, and a lot of personal stuff with the murder of her mother and that kind of thing. And then the second book has to do more with Dean and his background and where and how he came into the Naturals program and what got him there. But they're all still tied together, and so we're still following, Cassie and things like that. So like, while they're almost standalone, they're not. Like, you really, in order to, I guess you could read this without reading the first one, but there's stuff in here that definitely wouldn't make sense if you didn't read it. And then I just started reading the third one, which I think it's called, All In is the next one. And that one is focusing on Sloane and how she got there. And then the last one is Bad Blood. And so I just, like, so far each of the books has had like a little bit more of the story of some of the people, but like one of the characters, Michael, like, and maybe even Leah, but not to the same extent, but like Michael, like you're learning more and more about him and how he came to be and what kind of makes him tick and why he is good at what he does throughout all of these books. And so because there's only 2 more, the one that I'm reading right now, All In, and then Bad Blood, there's not an actual like book for each person, I don't think. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to see what happens, because again, I didn't really know a lot going into them. But I will say, just like the first one, it was just a fun read. It was quick. It's not super in depth. It is YA, but there is some like romance to it. There's, you know, the mystery element and everything. And so I've just been having a good time reading these, because sometimes, I don't know why horror doesn't always stress me out, but like murder and crime stuff does. And I think it's because there's like a little bit more of an element of like realism to a lot of mystery books, especially, you know, like murder mysteries and stuff. Whereas like horror, in my brain, I tend to be able to very much compartmentalize, I can't say this, compartmentalize and like, and kind of detach myself. Sorry, my dog's getting mad at the little one, but I can kind of detach myself from it a little bit, because it's not realistic. Like, you know, there's not a monster under your bed. Like, those things aren't going to actually happen. And so to me, even though like I can enjoy the kind of fear and the tension while I'm reading it, it's easy to shut it off. Whereas like murder mystery stuff, a lot of times they kind of stress me out a little bit more, because I can see them being more real. And so like my sister loves real crime drama and, you know, 48 Hours and like all of those kind of things and forensic stuff. And that stuff I cannot watch because it just gives me anxiety. So sometimes murder mysteries do that as well if they're too realistic. And so I think that's partly why I'm enjoying these, because they're not super realistic, nor are they super detailed with everything. And so I'm able to just really be like, okay, this is fiction brain. Like, we don't need to have anxiety about this book. So I'm definitely enjoying these. So I gave this 4 stars also. And I've already started reading All In, which is really good. It has some surprising stuff. So that is going to be it for this week. I just wanted to give a quick little update. And then I'll either do, because I'm actually almost finished with my March TBR books that I had pulled, because I'm about 70% done with the Sherlock Holmes stories that I'm reading. And then I'm like a good halfway, a little over halfway through with All In. And then all I have left is Bad Blood. So I'll definitely be reading some other books on top of that. I haven't decided whether I'm going to look through my shelves and see if I have any other like mystery or mystery adjacent kind of books, or if I'm going to read something different yet. I think I might just see how I'm feeling or what I'm in the mood for after that. But so my next video will either be like another weekly update, or it'll be my April TBR. We're coming up on that soon, but it'll be one of those, and then the following one will be, you know, the other ones. So I hope you all have a wonderful day and have a great week and stay safe, and I will see you all next time. Bye.